The year is 911. The air is thick with the scent of salt and iron. Waves crash against the jagged cliffs of the Frankish coast, their roar drowned by the war cries of Viking longships slicing through the mist. Imagine standing on the shore, a Frankish monk clutching a wooden cross, your heart pounding as shadows emerge from the fog. These are no ordinary raiders. They are the Northmen, led by a giant of a man whose name will echo through history, Rollo. His eyes burn with ambition. His axe gleams under the pale sun. To the Franks, he is a demon, a force of chaos. To his men, he is a god of war, unyielding and fearless. The Viking raids have bled the Frankish kingdom for decades, their dragon-proud ships striking like lightning, leaving villages in ashes. But this time, Rollo seeks more than gold or glory. He dreams of a legacy, a land to call his own. Picture the chaos of a ravaged village. Charred timbers smolder in the dawn light. A child's cry pierces the silence as survivors flee into the forest. The Franks are weary. Their king, Charles the Simple, desperate. His crown sits heavy, his coffers empty from endless wars. The Viking scourge must be stopped, but swords alone have failed. From the perspective of Brother Anselm, a monk in Rouen, the world feels like it's crumbling. God has forsaken us, he whispers, his quill trembling as he records the terror in his chronicle. Yet, in this darkness, a bold plan is forming. Charles, in his candlelit hall, paces before his advisers. Their faces are grim, their voices hushed. We cannot fight them forever, one mutters. Then we bargain. Charles declares, his voice steady, but laced with dread. The idea is unthinkable. Offer the Vikings land, a place to settle, in exchange for peace. But not just any land, strategic territory along the Seine, a gateway to the heart of Francia. This is no gift, it's a gamble. Can a wolf be tamed? Now, shift to Rollo's camp. A sprawl of tents and campfires on the riverbank. The air hums with the clink of axes and the laughter of warriors. Rollo stands tall, his braided beard swaying as he gazes at the horizon. His mind churns. Land, he muses, his voice low. Not just for me, but for my sons, and their sons. His lieutenant, Bjorn, grins, sharpening his blade. The Franks are fools to trust us, he says. Rollo's lips curl into a smirk. Let them think they've won. The historical stage is set in a fractured Europe. The Carolingian Empire, once mighty under Charlemagne, is splintering. Local lords bicker, and Viking raids exploit this weakness. By 911, the Franks have faced nearly a century of Norse incursions, from the sack of Paris in 845 to relentless coastal attacks. Charles's decision to negotiate with Rollo is rooted in pragmatism, inspired by earlier deals, like the one with Guthrum in England. The Treaty of Saint-Clair-sur-Epte, as it will be called, is a turning point, not just for Francia, but for the Vikings themselves. Imagine the tension of that meeting. A windswept field near the Epte River, banners flapping under a grey sky. Frankish knights, their armor glinting. Eye the Vikings, warily. Rollo strides forward, his fur cloak billowing, his men a wall of muscle and steel behind him. Charles, flanked by bishops, extends a cautious hand. Must swear loyalty to me, he demands, and this land is yours. Rollo's laugh booms across the field. I bow to no man. He retorts, but his eyes gleam with calculation. The deal is struck land for peace, and Rollo's baptism as a Christian. From Brother Anselm's perspective, this is blasphemy. A heathen in our church, he writes, his ink blotting with anger. He imagines Rollo's rough hands defiling sacred relics. Yet, the monk's fear is tempered by hope. If Rollo converts, perhaps God's mercy will prevail. For Rollo, the baptism is a means to an end. As the cold water touches his brow, he hides a smirk. Their God means nothing, he thinks, but their land is everything. The land granted is a rugged stretch from Rouen to the sea, a buffer against future Viking raids. It's a masterstroke by Charles, turn the wolf into a guard dog. But Rollo is no mere warlord. He sees potential in this fertile land, its rivers teeming with trade. His Vikings, once wanderers, begin to build. Wooden longhouses rise, blending Norse and Frankish styles. The Normans, as they will be called, are born from this fusion, their destiny tied to Rollo's vision. Picture Rouen, the heart of this new duchy, in 912. The city's walls, scarred from raids, now shelter Viking settlers. A market buzzes with activity. Norse traders haggle with Frankish merchants, their languages mingling like the Seine's currents. Rollo, now Duke, walks among them, his presence commanding. This is our home, he declares to his men, his voice firm, a young warrior. Eric nods, his eyes wide. We'll make it greater than Denmark. He vows the transformation is staggering. Historical records like the Annales Bertiniani note the Vikings' rapid adaptation. They adopt Frankish laws, intermarry with locals, and embrace feudal structures. Rollo's rule is firm but shrewd. He grants land to his loyal warriors, creating a network of vassals. Churches, once burned, are rebuilt, though Norse runes still adorn their beams. This is no mere settlement. It's the seed of a dynasty, but not all are content. In a quiet monastery, Brother Anselm watches the changes with unease. These wolves wear sheep's clothing, he murmurs, his prayers fervent. Across the river, Bjorn, Rollo's old comrade, scoffs at the new ways. We're Vikings, not farmers, he growls, his hand on his axe. Rollo's challenge is clear: unite two worlds or lose everything. His gaze, fixed on the horizon, burns with resolve. The story of Rollo is more than a tale of conquest. It's a saga of transformation, of a man who turned chaos into order. As the sun sets over Normandy, casting golden light on its fields, the future stirs. This land, forged in blood and bargains, will shape Europe for centuries. But for now, Rollo stands at the edge of his new world, his heart a storm of ambition and hope. Let's pause here. At the dawn of Normandy's rise, the stage is set. The players in motion. What happens next? A legacy unfolds, one of battles, betrayals, and triumphs. Picture yourself in Rollo's boots, or perhaps as Brother Anselm, watching history shift. The tale continues, and it's only getting started. The mist clings to the Seine like a shroud. It's 912, and the land now called Normandy hums with the promise of a new dawn. Picture Rouen's wooden palisades rising against the dawn sky, their timbers still smelling of fresh-cut pine. Viking longships, once harbingers of doom, Now Bob, gently in the river, tethered to a land they've claimed. Rollo, the giant from the north, stands atop a hill, his fur cloak snapping in the wind. His eyes, sharp as a hawk's, survey his domain, a land of opportunity, but also of peril. This is no longer a Viking camp. It's the seed of a duchy, a fragile dream held together by Rollo's iron will. From the perspective of Astrid, a Norse woman who followed her husband from Denmark, this land feels both alien and hopeful. She kneads dough in a longhouse, her hands dusted with flour, and whispers, "This soil could be ours forever." Yet danger lurks. Not all Vikings embrace this settled life, and the Franks watch with suspicion, their swords never far from reach. Imagine a marketplace in Rouen, alive with the clatter of trade. Norse traders barter furs for Frankish wine, their voices a tangle of guttural Norse and halting Latin. But beneath the bustle, tension simmers. A Frankish merchant, Gautier, narrows his eyes at a Viking buyer. "They'll turn on us," he mutters to his wife, his hand gripping a hidden dagger. The Normans, as these settlers are beginning to be called, are neither fully Viking nor Frank. They are something new, and that makes them unpredictable. Historically, this moment is pivotal. The Treaty of Saint-Clair-sur-Epte in 911 granted Rollo land, but holding it is another matter. The Carolingian Empire is a fractured mosaic, its lords more loyal to themselves than to King Charles. Viking raids continue elsewhere, and Rollo's own men, raised on plunder, chafe at the idea of farming or fealty. Chronicles like Dudo of St. Quentin's Historia Normanorum describe Rollo's early rule as a balancing act, blending Norse strength with Frankish governance. He's not just a warlord now, he's a duke, and the weight of that title is heavy. Shift to a stormy night in a longhouse. Rain hammers the thatched roof as Rollo gathers his lieutenants. Their faces, lit by flickering firelight, are etched with doubt. Bjorn, his old comrade, slams a fist on the table. "We're Vikings." "Rollo, not ploughman," he roars, his voice thick with disdain. Rollo's gaze is steel. "Ploughmen feed armies," he counters, his words cutting through the din. "This land is our future. Bjorn, fight for it or leave." The room falls silent, the crackle of the fire louder than any protest, but Bjorn isn't alone in his unrest. Picture a shadowy forest beyond Rouen's walls. A group of Viking rebels, led by a scarred warrior named Hrolf, sharpens their axes under moonlight. Rollo's gone soft. Hrolf snarls, his breath clouding in the chill. "We take the land for ourselves." Their plan is treason, a dagger aimed at Rollo's back. From Astrid's perspective, the whispers of rebellion are a cold wind through the settlement. She clutches her son, whispering, "Your father will protect us." But her heart races with fear. The historical record hints at such tensions. Early Norman chronicles suggest Rollo faced challenges from within his ranks, as some Vikings resisted the shift from raiding to ruling to secure his duchy. Rollo needed more than strength. He needed alliances. Enter Poppa of Bayeux, a Frankish noblewoman whose marriage to Rollo would bind two worlds. Imagine their first meeting in a stone-walled hall in Bayeux. Poppa, her auburn hair braided with silver, stands defiant before the Viking duke. "I am no prize to be won," she says, her voice steady. Rollo's lips twitch with amusement. "Then be my equal," he replies, and in that moment, a dynasty is conceived. Their union is more than a personal, it's political. The marriage, recorded in later Norman histories, symbolizes the fusion of cultures. Poppa brings legitimacy, connecting Rollo to Frankish elites. Their son, William Longsword, will inherit this dual heritage, a bridge between Viking and Frank. But for now, picture the wedding feast. Norse warriors raise horns of mead beside Frankish lords sipping wine. Astrid, watching from the crowd, feels a spark of hope. Maybe we can belong here, she thinks, her fingers tracing a Norse amulet. Yet, peace is fleeting. Shift to a dawn raid. The rebels striking a village loyal to Rollo. Flames devour thatched roofs as Hrolf's men swing their axes, their war cries shattering the morning. A young Norman farmer, Einar, fights back, his pitchfork trembling in his hands. "This is our home," he shouts, blood streaking his face. The clash is brutal, a microcosm of Normandy's growing pains. Rollo arrives, his horse's hooves thundering, his axe a blur of death. Hrolf falls, his rebellion crushed, but the cost is high. Trust is fraying. From Brother Anselm's perspective, now a grudging advisor in Rouen church, the violence is a sign. God tests us, he writes, his quill-scratching parchment. He sees Rollo's ruthlessness as both curse and salvation. The monk's prayers mingle with fear, but also a reluctant respect. This heathen duke builds where others destroy. He admits, his candle flickering. Rollo, meanwhile, stands over Hrolf's body, his breath heavy. "No one will take this land," he vows, his voice a low growl. Picture Rouen's transformation by 915. Stone walls replace wooden stockades, a testament to Rollo's ambition. A cathedral rises, its beams carved with Norse runes beside Christian crosses. Markets thrive, drawing traders from as far as Byzantium. Historical sources, like the Annales Rouennais, note Normandy's rapid growth, fueled by Rollo's feudal grants to loyal warriors. He's creating a new elite Vikings turned vassals, bound by land and oath. Astrid, now a weaver, smiles as her son plays with Frankish children. "This is home," she murmurs, her heart lighter. But challenges persist. Imagine a tense council in Rouen's hall. Frankish lords, their velvet cloaks a stark contrast to Viking furs, demand more control. "You're a guest here, Rollo," one sneers. Rollo's laugh is a thunderclap. "I'm the wall between you and the sea," he retorts, his hand on his sword. The room bristles, but the truth is undeniable. Rollo's Normans are the shield against future raids. His diplomacy, rough but effective, keeps the peace. The historical significance of this era is profound. Normandy's feudal system, blending Norse hierarchy with Frankish law, becomes a model for medieval Europe. Rollo's reforms, land grants, taxation, church patronage lay the foundation for a state that will outlast him. His marriage to Poppa and his Christian baptism, though partly strategic, anchor his legitimacy. By 920, Normandy is no longer a Viking outpost. It's a power in its own right. Its influence creeping toward Paris. Picture a quiet moment at dusk. Rollo stands by the Seine, Poppa at his side. "This land will outlive us," he says, his voice soft but firm. Poppa nods, her hand resting on her swollen belly. "Our son will carry it forward," she replies, her eyes bright with pride. The river reflects the fading light, a mirror of their shared dream. From Astrid's perspective, watching from her doorway, the sight is a promise. We're building something eternal, she thinks, her heart swelling. The forge of Normandy is ablaze, its sparks lighting the path to greatness, but every fire casts shadows, and new threats loom, rival lords, restless Vikings, and the weight of a dual heritage test. Rollo's resolve. The saga of the Normans is far from over. It's only beginning to burn brighter. Let's linger here, in the heat of creation. The duchy takes shape, forged in blood and bonds. What lies ahead? A legacy that will shake the world. From Rouen rivers to the fields of England, the story continues, and its fire will not fade. The year is 920. The Seine glitters under a frost-kissed dawn, its waters a mirror to Normandy's growing might. Picture Rouen's stone walls, now sturdy and proud, crowned with watchtowers that pierce the morning mist. Longships, once tools of terror, now carry grain and furs, their dragon prows softened by time. Rollo, Duke of Normandy, stands on the riverbank, his hair streaked with silver, his axe heavier in his hand. His eyes, though weathered, burn with the same fire that brought him to these shores. Normandy is no longer a dream, it's a reality, forged in blood and compromise. From the perspective of William Longsword, Rollo's young son, this land is both a burden and a destiny. At 16, William trains with a sword, his muscles aching, his heart racing with ambition. "I'll make you proud, father," he whispers, his breath clouding in the chill. But pride comes at a cost, and the duchy's peace is fragile, threatened by rivals without and doubts within. Imagine a bustling harbour in Rouen. Merchants from Flanders and Byzantium haggle over silks and amber, their voices a vibrant tapestry. Yet, beneath the prosperity, danger stirs. A Frankish lord, Robert of Neustria, watches from a hilltop, his lips curled in disdain. Rollo's a barbarian, playing king. He mutters to his knights, his hand tightening on his reins. The Franks tolerated Rollo as a buffer against Vikings, but his growing power unsettles them. Normandy is a spark that could ignite a greater fire. Historically, this era marks Normandy's rise as a feudal power. Chronicles like Dudo of St. Quentin's Historia, Norman Norum describe Rollo's later years as a time of consolidation. His feudal system land grants to loyal vassals, creates a loyal elite, blending Viking warriors with Frankish nobles. The duchy's military innovations, like early cavalry tactics, make it a formidable force. But Rollo's success draws envy. Other Viking chieftains, hungry for their own domains, eye Normandy's fertile fields, while Frankish lords plot to curb the heathen duke. Shift to a stormy night at sea. A Viking fleet, led by a ruthless chieftain named Sigtryg, slices through towering waves. Their longships, painted with raven banners, aim for Normandy's coast. Sigtryg, his face scarred from countless battles, grins into the wind. Rollo's grown fat on Frankish gold. He sneers to his men. "We'll take his land and his name." From the perspective of Astrid, now a respected weaver in Rouen, the news of approaching raiders is a cold dagger. She clutches her son, her voice steady but strained. "Your father faced worse," she tells him, though her heart pounds. The attack comes at dawn, a brutal clash on Normandy's shores. Picture the beach waves churn red with blood, Viking axes clash against Norman shields. Rollo, astride a warhorse, leads the charge, his roar a thunderclap. "This is our land," he bellows, his axe felling a raider. William fights at his side, his sword flashing, his face alight with fierce pride. The battle is a crucible, testing the duchy's unity. Sigtryg falls, his fleet scatters, but the victory is costly fields burn and trust frays. From Brother Anselm's perspective, now an elder monk in Rouen cathedral, the battle is a divine reckoning. God spares us, but at what price, he writes. His hands trembling as he lights a candle. He sees Rollo's strength as a necessary evil, a sword wielded by providence. Yet the monk's heart softens. He recalls Rollo's recent gift to the church, a silver cross, etched with Norse runes. Perhaps the heathen has a soul. Anselm muses, his quill pausing. Picture a quiet moment after the battle. Rollo and William stand atop a cliff, the sea stretching endless before them. "You fought well, my son," Rollo says, his voice rough but warm. William's chest swells, but his eyes are serious. "The Franks will come next, father," he warns. Rollo nods, his gaze distant. "Then we'll be ready," he replies, his hand resting on William's shoulder. The wind carries their words away, but the bond between them is iron. Historically, this period sees Normandy's cultural evolution. The Normans intermarry with Franks, their children speaking a hybrid tongue. Churches rise, blending Norse and Carolingian styles. As noted in the Annales Rouennais, Rollo's patronage of the church, strategic but sincere, cements his legitimacy. His son, William, raised as a Christian, embodies this fusion. By 925, Normandy's trade networks reach England and the Baltic, its wealth rivaling older Frankish domains. But tension brews within. Imagine a council in Rouen's Great Hall, its walls hung with tapestries of dragons and saints. Norman vassals, a mix of Viking veterans and Frankish converts, argue over land rights. A young lord, Gunnar, slams his fist on the table. "We fought for this land, not to bow to Frankish laws," he snaps. Rollo's voice cuts through the uproar, calm but deadly. "We bow to no one," he says, "but we build together or we fall apart." His words silence the room, a reminder of his unyielding will. Shift to a poignant scene in 927. Rollo, now in his 60s, walks through Rouen's fields with Poppa, his wife. Her auburn hair is threaded with grey, but her eyes are as fierce as ever. "Our son will lead when you're gone," she says softly, her hand in his. Rollo's jaw tightens. "He must be stronger than me," he replies, his voice heavy with the weight of years. From Astrid's perspective, watching them from her market stall, the sight is bittersweet. He's given us a home, she thinks, but even giants grow old. The historical record suggests Rollo's final years were marked by delegation. William Longsword, now in his 20s, takes on more duties, leading campaigns and negotiating with Frankish lords. Judo's chronicles praise William's piety and martial skill, but hint at tensions with his Viking roots. Rollo, ever the strategist, prepares his heir for a world of shifting alliances. His own death, around 930, is shrouded in legend, but his legacy is undeniable. Normandy is a power, its roots deep in the Seine's banks. Picture a grand feast in Rouen, a celebration of Normandy's strength. Tables groan under roasted boar and Frankish wine. Norse skalds sing beside Frankish minstrels. William raises a horn, his voice clear. To my father, who made us Normans, he declares, his eyes meeting Rollo's. The old duke smiles, a rare warmth in his gaze. The hall erupts in cheers, a moment of unity in a divided world. But shadows linger. Imagine a late-night meeting in a Frankish castle. Robert of Neustria, his face lit by candlelight, plots with other lords. William is young, untested. He whispers, Normandy can be ours. The words are a spark, one that will test William's reign. From Brother Anselm's perspective, the news of Frankish schemes is a storm on the horizon. The Lord tests the righteous. He prays, his hands clasped tightly. The flame of Rollo's vision burns bright, but every fire faces the wind. Picture his final moment, in a simple chamber overlooking the Seine. He lies on a fur-covered bed. Popper and William at his side. Make Normandy eternal. He murmurs, his voice faint but fierce. William nods, his throat tight. I swear it. Father, he says, his hand gripping Rollo's. The old duke's eyes close, and the room falls silent, save for the river's endless song. Rollo's death marks the end of an era, but not the end of his dream. Normandy stands strong, its people a blend of fire and faith. William steps into his father's shadow, his heart a forge of ambition and duty. The saga of the Normans continues, its echoes destined to reach distant shores, England, Sicily, and beyond. Let's pause here, at the twilight of a legend. Rollo's flame has passed to his son, but the path ahead is fraught with peril. What will William face? A duchy on the brink, a world watching, and a legacy that will shape history. The story burns on, and its light will not fade. The year is 2025. The Seine flows as it did 1,000 years ago, its waters catching the golden light of a summer dawn. Picture yourself standing on its banks in Rouen, where stone bridges span the river and the spires of a grand cathedral pierce the sky. The air carries whispers of history, of longships, axes, and a man whose ambition reshaped a continent. Rollo, the Viking who became a duke, is gone. But his legacy breathes in every cobblestone, every field, every story told. Normandy is no longer a fledgling duchy. It's a cornerstone of history. From the perspective of Clare, a modern historian, this land is a living tapestry. She walks through Rouen medieval streets, her fingers tracing the weathered stones of a Norman castle. Rollo built more than walls, she murmurs, her eyes bright with awe. He built a future, yet to understand that future, we must look back to the sparks of his vision and the fires they kindled. Imagine a classroom in present-day Rouen. Students, their tablets glowing, debate Rollo's legacy. A teenager, Amélie, raises her hand. He was a Viking, but he became one of us, she says, her voice earnest. Her words echo a truth. Rollo's Normans wove Norse fire with Frankish faith, creating a culture that would echo across centuries. The teacher nods, projecting an image of the Bayeux tapestry, its threads telling tales of conquest and courage. Historically, Normandy's impact is staggering. By the 11th century, Rollo's heirs, like William the Conqueror, reshaped Europe. The Norman Conquest of England in 1066, chronicled in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, spread Norman lore, architecture, and feudalism. Dudo of St. Quentin's Historia. Norman Norum praises Rollo's dynasty as divinely ordained, a blend of Viking vigor and Christian order. Normandy's influence stretched to Sicily, where Normans built kingdoms, and to the Crusades, where their knights carved legends. Shift to a flashback. 930, the year of Rollo's death. Picture a simple chamber in Rouen, its walls hung with furs. Rollo lies on a bed, his breath shallow, Popper and William Longsword at his side. "Make Normandy eternal," he whispers, his voice a fading storm. William's eyes glisten, his hand gripping his father's. "I swear it," he says, his voice breaking. The room is still, save for the Seine's gentle murmur outside, carrying Rollo's dream into eternity. From Brother Anselm's perspective, now an old monk, Rollo's passing is a paradox, a heathen who served God's will. He writes, his quill trembling. He recalls the cathedral Rollo funded, its runes and crosses a testament to fusion. Anselm's faith, once rigid, has softened. Perhaps the Lord works through unlikely hands, he muses, his candle casting long shadows. The monk's words, preserved in Rouen's archives, echo in modern studies of Norman identity. Picture William Longsword's reign, the 930s. Rouen's markets buzz with traders from Dublin to Baghdad, their wares a kaleidoscope of cultures. William, now Duke, stands in his father's hall, his armor gleaming. "We are Normans," he declares to his vassals, his voice firm. A Frankish lord, once skeptical, nods. Rollo's son speaks like a king. He thinks, his mistrust fading. Historical records, like the Annales Rouennais, note William's piety and military skill, but also his struggles to balance Viking and Frankish loyalties. Flash forward to 1066. Hastings, William the Conqueror, Rollo's great-great-grandson, charges across a muddy field, his banner high. For Normandy he roars, his sword flashing. The battle, etched in the Bayeux tapestry, is Rollo's legacy in motion. A duchy born in a Viking's dream now claims a kingdom. From Clare's perspective, studying the tapestry in a museum, the scene is electric. Rollo's ambition crossed centuries, she thinks, her heart racing. Imagine a quiet moment in modern Normandy. A farmer, Jean, tends fields where Vikings once fought. His family, he learns, descends from Norman settlers. "We're still here," he says, his hands deep in the soil. His pride mirrors Astrid's, centuries ago when she wove cloth in Rouen's first market. This is home, she thought, her son playing nearby. The continuity is profound. Rollo's land endures, its people a bridge between past and present. Historically, Normandy's innovations were revolutionary. Its feudal system, refined by Rollo, shaped medieval governance, as seen in charters from Saint-Michel. Norman architecture, think Durham Cathedral or Palermo's Palatine Chapel, blended strength and elegance. Archaeological finds, like Rouen's 10th century shipyards, reveal a maritime prowess that fueled trade and conquest. Rollo's vision, rooted in pragmatism, birthed a state that outlasted empire. Shift to a modern lecture hall. Clare, now a professor, addresses a crowd. Rollo teaches us to adapt, she says, her voice resonant. He took a fractured land and wove it into something greater. Her words spark nods as students scribble notes. One, a descendant of Normans, feels a surge of pride. My ancestors built this, he thinks, his pen pausing. Clare's lecture, streamed online, reaches thousands, linking Rollo's story to today's world. Picture a montage of Norman achievements. Mont Saint-Michel rises from the sea, its spires defiant. The Bayeux tapestry unrolls, its colours vivid. Norman knights gallop through Sicilian deserts, their crosses gleaming. The music swells, a blend of Norse drums and Gregorian chants, echoing the duchy's dual soul. From Amelie's perspective, watching a documentary, the images are mesmerizing. Rollo started this, she whispers, her eyes wide. Now, let's reflect. Rollo was no saint. He was a raider, a pragmatist, a man of his time. Yet his story is universal. He faced chaos Viking raids, Frankish distrust, a fractured world and built order. He bridged divides, uniting Norse and Frank, warrior and farmer, pagan and Christian. His lesson is clear. Adapt to change, forge unity from difference, and build for the future, guided by vision and tempered by wisdom. Imagine standing in Rouen cathedral today. Its stained glass glows, casting rainbows on stone carved with runes. A local guide, Marie, shares Rollo's tale with tourists. He made us Normans, she says, her voice warm. A visitor, inspired, jots down a goal to bridge divides in their own life. Rollo's legacy isn't just in history books, it's in the choices we make, the futures we shape. The Seine flows on, its waters timeless. Picture its banks at dusk, the horizon ablaze with possibility. Rollo's dream, born in a Viking's heart, lives in Normandy's fields, in its people, in us. What will you build? What legacy will you leave? The story of the Northmen isn't over. It's yours to continue. The sun dips low over Normandy's fields, painting the horizon in hues of amber and crimson. It's 2025, and the Seine whispers secrets of 1,000 years past its waters, a timeless thread binding Viking longships to modern ferries. Picture yourself in a quiet village near Rouen, where stone houses stand on foundations laid by Rollo's men. The air smells of fresh bread and sea salt, a reminder of the duchy's roots. Rollo's name may fade in casual talk, but his spirit fierce, cunning, unifying pulses in the land and its people. Normandy is more than a place, it's a testament to human will. From the perspective of Elias, a young filmmaker crafting a documentary, this region is a story begging to be told. He adjusts his camera on a hill overlooking Mont Saint-Michel, its silhouette a defiant crown against the tide. Rollo's dream built this, Elias murmurs, his lens capturing the abbey's glow. His film, a tribute to the Normans, seeks to show how one man's vision reshaped the world. Imagine a bustling festival in modern Bayeux. Locals and tourists throng the streets, their laughter mingling with the strum of lutes and the clink of cider mugs. A guide, Sophie, stands before the Bayeux tapestry, her voice animated. This cloth tells Rollo's legacy, she says, pointing to embroidered knights. A child, wide-eyed, asks, was he a hero? Sophie smiles. He was a man who changed history. She replies, her words sparking curiosity in the crowd. Historically, Normandy's reach is breathtaking. Rollo's heirs, as chronicled in the Historia Normanorum by Judo of St. Quentin, carried his legacy to England. Sicily, and the Holy Land, the Norman conquest of 1066, detailed in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, reshaped Britain's language, laws, and culture. Norman adventurers like Robert Guiscard conquered southern Italy, their cathedrals still standing in Palermo. Archaeological evidence, Rouen 10th century shipyards, Norman castles in Caen, reveals a society that blended Viking vigor with Frankish finesse. Flashback to 933 under William Longsword's rule. Picture a windswept cliff where William stands, his cloak billowing, his eyes scanning the sea. A scout reports a Frankish plot to seize Rouen. They think us weak, the scout says, his voice tense. William's jaw tightens. Let them come, he replies, his voice a steel echo of his father's. The scene is vivid. Norman cavalry, a new force born of Rollo's reforms, thunders across fields, crushing the rebellion. From Astrid's perspective, now an elder weaver, the victory is a relief. Rollo's son guards our home, she thinks, her hands steady on her loom. Shift to a modern classroom in London. A teacher, Mr. Patel, shows students a map of Norman conquests. Rollo's blood runs in England's veins, he says, tracing the path from Rouen to Hastings. A student, Liam, whose family traces Norman roots, feels a spark. My ancestors fought with William, he thinks, his pride swelling. The lesson, streamed globally, connects Rollo's era to today's diverse world, where Norman DNA mingles in countless lineages. Picture a quiet moment in Palermo, Sicily, a historian, Isabella, explores the Palatine Chapel, its mosaics shimmering under candlelight. Normans brought this beauty, she says, her fingers brushing gold tiles. The chapel, built by Rollo's distant kin in the 12th century, blends Norse, Arab, and Byzantine styles, a mirror of Normandy's fusion. Isabella's research, published in academic journals, cites Norman charters that echo Rollo's feudal grants. His vision crossed seas, she thinks, her heart full. Flashback to 940, a trade mission to Paris. William Longsword, now seasoned, negotiates with Frankish lords in a grand hall. Normandy offers grain and steel, he says, his tone firm but diplomatic. A lord, once hostile, nods. Rollo's son is no barbarian, he mutters, impressed. The deal strengthens Normandy's wealth, as noted in the Annales Rouennais. From Brother Anselm's perspective, now a frail chronicler, the moment is divine. God guides the Normans, he writes, his quill slow but sure. Imagine a modern film set in Normandy. Elias directs actors in Viking armor, recreating Rollo's battle against Sigtryg. Feel his fire, Elias shouts, his voice echoing over the beach. The lead actor, portraying Rollo, swings an axe, his eyes blazing. This is our land, he roars, channeling the Duke's spirit. The scene, shared on social media, goes viral, drawing millions to Rollo's story. Sophie, watching the clip, smiles. He's alive again, she thinks, her heart racing. The historical scope widens. Norman legal codes, like the Consuetudines et Justicie of the 11th century, trace back to Rollo's governance, influencing English common law. Norman ships evolved from Viking designs, dominated medieval trade, as seen in excavations at Roskilde. Their language, Old Norman, seeded French and English words, think castle or jury. Rollo's duchy, a footnote in Carolingian annals, became a fulcrum of Western history. Picture a family reunion in rural Normandy. A farmer, Clare, shares her genealogy with cousins from Canada. We're Norman through Rollo's time, she says, showing a faded document. Her cousin, Mark, nods, his eyes misty. From Vikings to us, he says, raising a glass. Their story, one of millions, reflects Normandy's diaspora emigrants who carried Rollo's legacy to the New World. Astrid's hope, centuries ago, lives in their laughter. This is home, she thought, and it still is. Now, let's pause and reflect. Rollo was a man of contradictions, raider and ruler, pagan and Christian, destroyer and builder. His life teaches us to embrace complexity, to find strength in adaptation, and to forge unity from division. He turned enemies into allies, chaos into order, and a fleeting dream into an eternal legacy. What can we learn? Dare to bridge divides, whether cultural, personal, or professional. Build with courage. Knowing your work may outlive you. Imagine a quiet evening in Rouen Cathedral. A choir sings, their voices soaring through arches carved with Norse knots. A visitor, Sarah, lights a candle inspired by Rollo's tale. I'll mend my family's rift, she vows, her heart steady. Her resolve mirrors Rollo's small acts of unity ripple outward. Elias, filming nearby, captures the scene. This is why I tell his story, he thinks, his camera steady. The Seine flows on, its waters a mirror of time. Picture its banks at twilight, where history and hope intertwine. Rollo's echoes resound in cathedrals, tapestries, and the lives we lead. What divides will you bridge? What legacy will you forge? The Northman's fire burns in you, waiting to light the world anew.